Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Kay Cote, and I'm your host of today's episode. And today on the show, I have Alan Curtis, Managing Director of Steelway, as my guest. We're going to be learning about his business, his journey to business ownership, best practices that he's learned, and maybe some challenges that he's faced to give you that inside look to what it's like to run and operate a business. If this is your first time on our channel, be sure to like and subscribe to get notifications when we drop episodes like this. Welcome, Ian. It's so great to meet you. Thanks for being on the show today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, before we get into all the things about your business, can you share a bit about yourself?
So I'm Alan Curtis. I'm managing director of Steelway. I've been at Steelway for a year and a half. Prior to that, I was at a major manufacturing organisation, which is, I guess, where I learnt my trade for 17 or 18 years. I took that experience into the SME world, and I'm loving my time there. I guess outside of work, I'm married. I've got three children who keep me almost as busy as work does.
Oh, I love that. Well, thank you for sharing a bit about that. So, yeah, I'd love to dive in. How did you get into being the managing director at Steelway, and like what kind of like drew you into that?
So, um, like I said, I've been at Steelway for about 18 months, and Steelway's on a real growth trajectory. The company is nearly 100 years old, so it's been around since 1928. And it's gone through several different iterations of ownership, but most recently, in the last 3 or 4 years, or about 4 years ago, it was bought out by a small holding company. And prior to that, it was owner managed. It was owner managed at a really successful level, but it was relatively stable. And when Northern Industries bought the business, one of the key objectives was to grow the business, and so the business has been through some real growth over the last 2 or 3 years, which is excellent. But as part of that growth journey, what the business realised was that they needed to improve the way that the business was run and operated. You can't run a business that's twice the size it was using the same systems and processes that it always did. And so I was brought in. I guess one of the key reasons I was brought in was because of my experience in big corporate manufacturing organisation, to bring some of those tools, systems, processes into the business, to try and bring Steelway, which is an SME, up into the modern way world and modern way of thinking, really, and try and reap some of those benefits in our company.
Hmm. Wow, that's incredible. Like it's very it's I think like for businesses, it's definitely for expansion to like get those systems in place. That must have been a huge help.
Yeah, it's a real challenge. The reason the business is successful is because of its legacy. It's got a really well established name in the market. We supply access metalwork to all of the major contractors in the UK, and really we've traded on our name for a number of years. So the people in the business understand, how to do the do, but when you're trying to get twice as much output, you can't rely on the same scraps of paper and knowledge sitting in people's minds. Coupled with that, we had a problem of which is not unique to us, of an aging workforce. So a lot of the knowledge was at risk of leaving the business through retirement. And so, what was really important was to put some processes and systems in place to proceduralize all that, really, so that we weren't reliant on any one person, so that that information was available to anybody within the business, and we can make informed business decisions then about what we were doing and why we were doing it. It initially it gave us a lot of good visibility that we didn't previously had. It let us see where we were going. It let us see where our pitfalls were going to be before we came across them, which allowed us to be more proactive. And I guess moving on from that, then it allows us to be more responsive to our customers. So having systems in place, we can tell our customers what to expect and when to expect it. We can be a lot more controlled in what we're doing. So yeah, it's been a hell of a journey. It's been a really exciting journey, and it's a journey that we're on, but we're by no means complete. There's still a lot more to do.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm just taking a couple notes here. And looking at like you stepping into your role now, I'd love to learn about the team you're working with. How many team members do you have right now, and kind of like what's your team dynamic?
So the company employs about 200 people. So that's how big we are as a company. I've got more direct reports than I probably should have. I've probably got 8 or 9 direct reports, which is a draw on my time, but sometimes that's a necessary thing. We've got 2 factories in the Midlands, so we've got our main factory is in Wolverhampton. And we've got another factory in West Brom as well. So 2 factories and therefore two leadership teams. The factories are different; they make slightly different products. So yeah, I've got probably 8 or 9 reports, and I think that one of the, like I said, there's a lot of knowledge in the business, a lot of good experience and knowledge in the people, but they only know what they know because they've been within the business for a long time. And so part of the strategy for growth is, as we grow, we're going to need more people. As people retire, we're going to replace those people. And part of the strategy is to replace and bring in talent into the business wherever we can, so that we're bringing in knowledge and expertise from outside with different ideas, different views, different thoughts, to make the business stronger, really, and complement those skills that we've already got in the business and that knowledge we've already got in the business with fresh ideas and fresh thoughts. So part of what we've been doing over the last few years is bringing in a lot of, when I say a lot, we're bringing in new people, restructuring parts of the business, restructuring teams to put proper levels of accountability and responsibility where they should be, and where we need to, bringing in that talent to support that and take us onto the next level of the journey. So yeah, and again, that's all part of change, So the business, not only are we changing systems, process, techniques, procedures, we're also changing people. And so there's a hell of a lot. And one of the really exciting things that I find about the job is that because there's that level of change, if I look back, on the last week or the last month, you can really see the difference. You can see what's happening, and you can see what we've changed and the impact of that change. And most of the time, that's good. Sometimes that change doesn't do what we want it to do, but you can see the change nevertheless, and we can react to that accordingly. And coming from where I've come from, where I was in a big corporate manufacturing organisation. Best practice was there, but making change was really, really hard, because you had to go through loads of levels of bureaucracy, loads of levels of decision making. And because the company was so big and the decisions therefore were so relatively small, you couldn't see the effect of that change. And when you could see the effect, it took a long time to see it. So it makes it really exciting in a small business to be able to, make a decision, understand something's right or wrong, make a change, make an impact, and see the effect of that really quickly. That's really empowering and really quite exciting.
Definitely. Well, thank you for sharing that. There's so many things to unpack. Looking at where you want to go into the future with the company, it sounds like, you have a lot going for you, a lot of growth, especially as you're implementing these new structures. Where do you see the company going in the next 3 to 5 years?
So And that's a really good question. We've we've come a long way in the last 3 years. You know, we've doubled in the last 3 years. So we're a 22, 23 million pound business. Now we were 3 years ago we were 11 million pound business. So we've grown a lot. We want to, what we've done in the last sort of 12 months is really stabilize those operations, like I've been talking about. And that what that's done is therefore given us a platform to grow again. So we're hungry now and ambitious to grow again. A lot of our business comes from the water industry, and the water industry is just announced a hell of a lot of spending over the next 5 years. So there's a lot of opportunity for us to grow. But what we're just starting to do really in earnest now, because we've got those structures and those systems and those people in place, is now we're going out and we're looking about what other opportunities there are within the market for us. We've been really lucky as a business that up until this point, you know, we've just relied on work coming to us, the reputation of our name, existing customers coming back for repeat work, all that sort of good stuff, and that will continue. But we're now in a place where we want to look for more opportunity. We want to go and hunt for more opportunities. So, you know, I'd like to say in the next 3 to 5 years, maybe we won't double the business again, but we're definitely going to carry on that growth trajectory and carry on seeing both top and bottom line growth. And like I say, I think that the great thing is that having put the structure and the system and the process in place, we can now grow that top line, and we know that we can carry on delivering, and the bottom line will therefore benefit off the back of it. So I think we're in a really good position, poised for some more growth over the next few years.
Oh, wow, that is incredible. Thank you for sharing about that. And, looking at how you're finding that growth, looking at the marketing behind the business, where are y'all marketing to primarily? Like, how are you getting people to see your business?
We've recently hired. When I talk about talent, we've recently hired a new head of marketing into the business to sort of give us a better brand presence out in the market, and we're doing a lot of work. We're doing more on social media than we've done before. We're producing better quality literature and all that sort of good stuff to go with it. But I think because of the industry that we work in, our customers are primarily big contractors, big doing big development pieces of work. So we're unlikely to get a lot of business off a click or a like or whatever from social media. So we're really targeting our efforts now on contacting the competitors of the customers that we've got, reaching out to them. We're attending more trade shows than we've done before, both as both exhibiting and as visiting. And we're doing loads of things, meet the buyer events, and we're really trying to get our name out there and our presence out there. And it's something that I've perhaps wanted to do for 6 or 12 months, but until the sort of now, we've not had the substance to really go out and really confidently be able to tout for that work and know that we can deliver on it. But we're in that position now, and so we've got a really compelling story to tell. We've got the factory is a showpiece. Our competitors are we're a lot bigger than our competitors, and we're not complacent in that fact in any way, and we need competitors to keep us on our toes. But what we offer is really quite unique. Because of the size of our organisation compared to our competitors, I've got a team of 15 design engineers, for example, whereas our competitors might only have 1 or 2. Our factory, we've got a huge factory, we've got massive operations team. So we've got something that's a real showpiece to invite customers to, and to show them what we've got, give them a walk around the facility, and tell them more about who we are and what we do. So yeah, we've got various different strands to the marketing and how we're going to attract new business.
Well, that's really cool. And in thinking about the size of your team and the workload you have as managing director, would you say that you're more working in the business or on the business? And like, what does that kind of day to day look like for you?
So it's a real challenge. Um, I spend less time on the business than I should. It's a constant battle, and I think, to be honest, even if I was spending loads more time, I'd still have that niggle on my shoulder that says I was spending too much time in the business than on the business.
Mhm.
The last 18 months has been, a lot of it has been in the business. It's been really about getting the business on a sound footing so that we can grow. So it's been necessary to do that. Because we've been evolving, because we've been changing lots of things. It's been important that I've been there and been around to navigate through that and to help take the team through those situations. But I think that, like I said a few times, we're in a position now where I can and I feel more comfortable to step away from being in the business all the time and start working on the business. And that's then allowed me to think a bit more strategically, definitely more customer centric, and more sales centric than I probably was before.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you for sharing with about that, because that's kind of a golden nugget, when people are in leadership to find that harmony or ebb and flow with those two things. So thank you for sharing about that.
I think it's something that I debate with myself all the time, and as I drive to and from work most days, I reflect on what I should be doing and what I have been doing and what I should be doing. And I think as long as I'm consciously aware of that, I should be doing more on the business than in the business, then it's not that it's taken over me. I'm consciously aware of it, and therefore I can do something about it. I think that the problem for me would come if I thought I was doing the right thing by spending all my time in the business and not paying the regard to the on the business stuff. So
Mm.
I think it always will be a battle, but having that conscious awareness of it, I think, is a really important thing.
100%. I agree with you there. Looking at, you know, the last couple of years in business or the last 18 months, I would love to share a challenge you faced that you overcame, to inspire other business owners that, even though we have these challenges we face, we can overcome. So, what is something you faced and how did you overcome it?
Um, I think, I faced a challenge that I've faced several times before, and um, that is that sometimes we have really good people in a role who have taken that role as far as they can probably take it, and um, in order for the business to move to the next level, those people either need to move with the business or need to move out of the business. And that's about making some tough decisions sometimes about who are the right people to have on the bus, who are the right people to take on that journey, um, in the business. And I work really hard to try and share the journey with people and try and get them engaged and get them moving. But sometimes there's just too much resistance, and we have to make these tough decisions. And I've made some tough decisions about people, and they're always hard because it's a people decision at the end of the day. But from a business point of view, the hard part is that these people, people in general who've been in the business for a while, have got a lot of knowledge. They've got a lot of stuff that they know, particularly in small businesses. There's a lot of stuff that they do, a lot of contacts that they have, and there's always a risk or a perceived risk that if those people aren't around tomorrow, who's gonna do all those things that they did? Who's gonna know what they did, or who they spoke to, or how to deal with this problem when it arrives? And so, that's the tough decision to overcome. But the reflection is that, I've done it a few times in Steelway and several times elsewhere, that actually when you make that decision, those problems don't exist, because the people that are left in the business find a way around what you need to do, and generally you bring in some new talent with new ways of thinking who can overcome those problems. And so, the reflection from me is that, and I always have this same reflection, is that, go with your gut, and yes, put in the due diligence that you need to, and make sure that you're well protected, but go with your gut and make those decisions, because if it's the right decision for the business, you'll find a way to compensate for the things that were missing. And the grass isn't always greener on the other side, but most of the time, if it's the right thing for the business, you will see business benefits off the back of it.
Very, very true. Thank you for sharing that. That's another golden nugget of this conversation. This has been a great conversation so far, and now I want to lead us into our fun rapid fire Q&A, where I ask you 4 questions and you answer very top of mind. So Alan, are you ready for some rapid fire?
Let's go.
All right. Question number 1 is, what is a key to success for you?
Key to success is think big, and scale up for the future, I think.
Definitely. Question number 2 is, what is a piece of advice you have for other business owners?
I think that the advice I've got is that, don't be afraid to modernize, to systemize and proceduralize your business, because I think by doing that, it takes away the risk of relying on people's knowledge, and it allows you to scale up for the future.
Definitely. Question number 3 is, what is either a book you've read, a podcast you've watched or listened to? What is something that you've taken in most recently?
So a book I read recently was Good to Great, about why some businesses succeed and others don't. And a real snippet from it for me is about getting people on the bus, getting people on the journey, getting them to come with you. And it doesn't necessarily matter where you're going, but if you've got the right people in the right roles, you can take that business wherever you want to go. So that's probably the most pertinent thing I've had.
Oh, definitely. And the 4th question is, if you could wave a magic wand and rapidly improve one aspect of your business, what would it be?
I think that I think because of the situation we're in, or the position we're in, it would be opening a big black book of new contacts and new customers to go and talk to. I think that'd be the biggest thing. I've worked in industries before where that data's all published, and it's quite easy to go and find that sort of stuff. For us, it's much harder to pick through. So.
Thank you for sharing that. Before we get to our final question today, how can people connect with your business online?
So we've got a new website that we launched about 12 months ago. So steelway.co.uk. That will navigate you through. We're also present on the social media platforms, but I guess most active on LinkedIn. So if you just look for Steelway on LinkedIn or via our website, you can get in contact with us through there.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Alan. For our final question today, what is most inspiring to you today?
I think, it's always good to have these conversations to reflect on where you've come from, and I guess where you're going. So what's inspiring to me is actually, verbalizing some of this stuff makes you realize just how much, you know, this isn't me being big-headed in any way, but how much you can achieve and how much anybody can achieve in these sorts of roles in such a short space of time. And it's nice to reflect back on that sometimes and just see, you know, how far we've come.
Oh, definitely. I think that's so important because as business owners, we oftentimes are too busy looking at what we're doing. We're in the trenches doing the things that we don't often come up for air and see what we've built. So I think that's very, very powerful. Thank you for sharing that.
Great, you're welcome.
Well, this has been such a great conversation. And to everyone listening or watching this, be sure to listen to this a couple times through. Alan had such great things to say today. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been great. Thank you.